What's going on, everyone? So, the Washington Wizards are expected to waive a player after acquiring Cam Whitmore, essentially for nothing, 2 second-round picks. Part of that was the Houston Rockets kind of just needed to clear cap space to get under the apron, right? So, kind of the Wizards just kind of gained because of a Houston Rockets situation, right? So, with that, a lot of expectations that, like, hey, they're probably going to waive a guy, maybe two, and so far the targets are Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart. Did a whole video on the potential of Chris Middleton, adding him to a team like the San Antonio Spurs. I want to talk about Marcus Smart. Now, on the surface, I know some people are going to be like, how many guards do you need, right? And I understand we have an abundance of guards, but I do think that Devin Vassell's probably getting traded at some point. To me, I look at Marcus Smart as one, that veteran, but more than anything, a guy that brings toughness to a team that I think will really need it. Talking about a very young team, talking about a team that has all the talent in the world, but Marcus Smart is a guy that is that locker room leader, right? You saw it on the Boston Celtics. It was one of my concerns when they traded him, right? Like him basketball-wise, I like Marcus Smart. Don't get me wrong. Dude's an absolute pit bull. Dude's relentless. However, there are, he can kind of get a little, shot happy at times. His shot selection can be incredibly frustrating at times. It's just, he kind of gets, like the star syndrome at times. Right. And in Boston, very different because, he was Mr. Boston for so long. So, maybe in a different situation, different team, kind of different role, maybe that changes. Memphis, I didn't think he was as bad he was in Boston. He had his moments here and there, but, it's kind of hard to break habits type thing. But to me, I just think you could live with that with Marcus Smart because I think he's a guy that, again, just brings that level of toughness, can bring that veteran leadership, is a guy that was a leader before to a young team in the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and was the vet in the room even when he was younger. He's just turned 31 in March, so he's not going to be 32 till, you're getting close to the end of the season there. And a guy that just, again, brings toughness, scoring, defense, right? Can be that point of attack kind of 3-and-D guard for you. You look at guys like Stephon Castle. If you needed to, you can kind of get creative, have like Castle at the 3, right? And have like Marcus Smart at the point or the 2, right? With De'Aaron Fox, stuff like that. I look at him as this kind of two-way just menace for a team like the Spurs, but just being more of a locker room presence. Now, obviously, the biggest question is, like, would Marcus Smart want to go to a team like the Spurs off a buyout? Because, for being honest, Spurs are probably not contending for an NBA championship this year. And Marcus Smart hasn't had one yet. Probably wants to get one at some point and he's still at the ripe age where he can kind of be a key player. Right? Be a guy that can come in and really kind of play a role for the right team, whether it's starting or coming off the bench. Where on the Spurs, you're probably not starting him, right? Like maybe you can make an argument to start him and De'Aaron Fox and then kind of go with like, especially if you end up trading Devin Vassell and then kind of go with like, Harper and Castle off the bench and kind of let the young guys lead the second unit type thing. Maybe that could be something interesting. Maybe that could be something that kind of incentivizes and convinces Marcus Smart to maybe come over to the Spurs where it's like, hey, anywhere else you're probably coming off the bench. Anywhere else you're probably just, you're going to play the same type of role. But come here, maybe you throw them a little extra cash just to kind of, hey, you only get the vet minimum anywhere else. We'll give you slightly more just to kind of incentivize you. Come in, be a locker room presence, right? Maybe give it a year and then, go for greener pastures if you want, whatever, right? Like you still have a couple years under your belt before you can, like, unless you're planning on retiring in the next year or two, why not kind of make a little extra money, come help a young Spurs team, and then, you look good. That might kind of be something that you could present to other teams, right? Maybe get some more money elsewhere, so on and so forth, right? You kind of just swing it in a way where it's like, hey, man, like, here's why you don't want to go try to win a championship over there and you want to help this young team. Because I've talked about, right? I think the Spurs need to go one of two directions. Either you go the full-fledged, like, youth, and you take a flyer on a couple young guys, right? An Amani Bates that's out there still, right? And you bring somebody like that in, and you see if maybe you grab 2 or 3 of them and maybe you hit on 1 or 2, right? Maybe you find that diamond in the rough that no one else was expecting, or you see guys at times just they're a product of their environment, right? They're in one team playing a different role, different situation, so on and so forth, and then they go to a team where it's like now they get to play a different role, different minutes, different situation, so on and so forth, and then now they're just better, right? Maybe you hit on something like that, or you go the full-fledged, like, here's the veteran route. And you go and you bring in guys, right? Like, you saw how impactful and important Chris Paul was last year. He was so valuable to this team because he gives you the veteran leadership and presence, but he's really good at helping develop young guards. We've seen it essentially his whole career, right? With OKC in particular, right? With guys like Dennis Schroeder and particularly SGA, right? So, can you bring in a guy like a Marcus Smart and just give some of our guards like a Dylan Harper, Stephon Cass, I'm not really so much worried about, but, give our guards kind of that toughness. Like, give them somebody that's that's not afraid of a little squabble, somebody that's willing to kind of, to lay down for his team type thing, right? Like, let's do it, right? Like, die for loose balls, do the hustle play, show you what you need to do if you want to win, right? And just be that vocal leader, be that vocal presence. Again, you look at him, 6'3", 6'9" wingspan, just got size, strength, tough. I mean, the dude's an absolute pit bull, right? Like, if you're familiar with Marcus Smart, I mean, the one thing that you're not worried about with Marcus Smart is toughness, right? So dude is an absolute tank. Now, like I said, he's 31 years old, but what did he provide? What can he provide a young team? Well, again, you look at a team like the Washington Wizards, they're just stacking veteran guys like nobody's business. I'll go over kind of what he did collectively over the season and then talk about his best stint. But last year between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Washington Wizards, he played 34 games, 7 games started, 20 minutes on the dot per game average, 7.6 attempts, shot 40% from the field, 3-point range, shot 4.1 attempts at 35% from 3-point range. He has a career 32.4% 3-point shooter, so never really been a great 3-point shooter, but he has had seasons. He has had moments. He's had stints. Like I'll talk about the Washington Wizards stint, but again, 34.8% from 3-point range, from 2-point range, shot 45% from the floor on 3.4 attempts, had an EFG of 48.8%, shot 76.1% from the free throw line, grabbed 2 rebounds, 3.2 assists, steal, half a block, and 9 points per game between the two teams, which is the Memphis Grizzlies and the Washington Wizards. Now, kind of go through Memphis, kind of go through Washington, and he was more efficient in some areas than he was in others in different places. So, for example, in Washington, his overall field goal percentage was 44% compared to 35.8% with Memphis. He shot 7.3 attempts compared to 7.8 attempts, so roughly the same amount of attempts. 3-point range, 39.2% with Washington, 32.2% with Memphis. But with Washington, it was 3.4 attempts. Memphis, it was 4.7 attempts. But 2-point range, again, with Washington, 48.3%. With Memphis, 41.4%. EFG of 53.2 compared to 45.6. Free throw shooting, though, was atrocious with Washington. He was 68.6% on 2.3 attempts, where with Memphis, he was 83% on 2 attempts. He grabbed more rebounds with Memphis, 2.3 compared to 2. Dished out more assists with Memphis, 3.7 compared to 2.5. Steals were the same, blocks were roughly the same, and then 9.3 points compared to 8.7. So points were roughly the same. So more efficient scoring-wise with Washington, more kind of done overall with the team like the Memphis Grizzlies. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.